I've been dropping. Do you say we're just going to collect Dave? Yeah. So let me check. Oh, he's right there. Yeah.
All right, welcome everyone. We are going to call this meeting to order because we want to give plenty of time to hear. It's a very special day for us. We have some special guests with us, so I'm excited that you are all here. For those of you that don't know, my name is Haley Kaplan. I'm the president, and we're so glad that you're joining us. So a couple of announcements. I always forget a few, so let me know if I did. Ballots have now gone out, so watch for those. I know we have several candidates here again, so if you need to visit with them, please do. And then we have the upcoming Congressional District 2 debate, which is November 7th. And we have a couple of UFRW announcements. We have, one, we need to get delegates from our club. Our club has actually been allotted the most delegates because we're the largest. So if you'd like to be a delegate, you'd be voting on the officers for the state club. And that will be December 11th. It'll be virtual. Lisa, sorry. We need to elect them. Okay. Yes. So if you would like to be a delegate, will you please raise your hand? Jennifer, I need to write these down. We have, let me double check. I think we have 11 that we need. So we've got Jennifer, Lisa, we've got Alexis. I'm writing them down quickly. Star, we've got Judy. Yes. Yes. Okay. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 so far. Let's see. Joanne. And we've got Miranda, and did I miss any other ones over here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, thank you, JJ and okay. Mariana. I think we have one more. If anyone else? Voting members. Okay, perfect. Thank you. We'll get. Okay.
What time is that going to be?
We haven't received a time yet, but stay posted. It's December 11th. It'll be virtual, so you can do it from your home or wherever. Okay, so if there aren't, if there are any, all in favor of those that, yes. So we've got Jennifer Nelson, Lisa Sandberg, Alexis Star Richens, Judy Houston, Joanne Brinting, Miranda Todd, JJ Abernathy, Mariana Taylor, and sorry, now tell me your last name. That's right, Linda Andershat. Okay, so if there are any opposed or any others that want to, please raise your hand. And then all in favor of those being elected as our delegates, say aye. Aye. Perfect. Thank you so much. So you will be receiving more information on that. And then we have a UFRW lunch that's going to be at the Governor's Mansion on December 5th. The tickets are going quickly, so if you want to do that, you can get a check or cash to Judy today, or you can go online. I posted it on the Facebook, but did you have something to add?
I'm just wondering, with the UFRW, with the virtual,
yeah.
Can we all get together at somebody's house?
Definitely, yeah. We'll get together as delegates so we can talk about that for sure. But as far as the Governor's Mansion, it's just a fun Christmas luncheon that our President Carrie has put together. Lisa or Judy has been involved as well, so get with her if you're interested in that, because I think there's only about 30 seats left, so you'll want to nail that down quickly.
Did you say it was $45?
Yes, thank you. $45 for that, and it's up in Salt Lake, the Governor's Mansion. I think our mic is going up. Let's try this one. There we go. Sorry, I lost a mic. All right, and then we have the Veterans Day Parade. We'd love to have you come march or ride with us. That's Saturday the 11th, and it's in Washington City is where that route is. So please join the Republican Party for that. We have, let's see, what other quick announcements? just take note, Judy reminded me of the Lincoln Day is Buck Sexton. If you hear him on the radio, he took over the Rush Limbaugh show. Really good speaker, so we're excited to have him. That's February. And also remember the caucus boot camp in January if you have juniors or seniors in high school to teach them how our voting system works here. So hopefully I didn't miss any great announcements. Oh, there is still the flag initiative. If you're interested in signing that, we'll pass that around. Chad Benyon, I know, is a good contact for that. And then one last is the birthday party for one of our guests, Ken Brown. He's turning 100. You're going to hear from him in a little while. So that's this Saturday, 4 to 7 p.m. at the Stake Center building that's on River Road and 9th South. So they'd love to invite you to join to celebrate the big 100. That's awesome. So thank you so much.
Yeah, let's give them a round.
And then lastly, we want to recognize our elected officials are here. We have Representative Cole and Jack. Thank you so much for being here with us. And we have a couple of our county commissioners, Adam Snow and Gil Almquist. Thank you. And then did Speaker make it in? Speaker Brad Wilson, I think, will be joining us. Rayleigh's going to be his liaison. So if you have questions that way, talk to Rayleigh. All right, we're going to start with our prayer by our chaplain, Sharon Simmons. And then we'll have our Americanism and Pledge by Charlotte Devlin. We'll go to our new member report from Joanne. And then we'll turn the time over to Sharon following that for our executive committee nominees. And we'll go to that point.
Let us pray. Dear Father in heaven, we're grateful to Thee to be together again back at the Abbey Inn, and for Carrie and her staff who provide for our nourishment. We're thankful to Thee to welcome Donald and Carol Riddle from Honor Flight, Utah, as our guest speakers, and we look forward to hearing from them and their experience. We're grateful to Thee for the success of the St. George Marathon and Huntsman Senior Games last month, and for the safety of all those involved. We're grateful to Thee for Representative Mike Johnson as the new Speaker of the House. We're grateful to Thee for the joint statement of our country and nearly 100 others in support of Israel and in the condemnation of Hamas, and we're grateful to Thee for the rescue of hostages so far. Father, we ask Thy blessing for Carrie and her staff who continually support our club. May they know how much we appreciate them. We ask Thy blessing for our guest speakers, Donald and Carrie and Carol, and hope they continue to enjoy with their work with Honor Flight, and know that their service, patriotism, and sacrifice is appreciated. And we ask Thy blessing for a safe, enjoyable trip for those veterans who will have their Honor Flight next week. We ask Thy blessing for House Speaker Mike Johnson. May he be successful in leading and conducting the work of the People's House. We ask Thy blessing for our friend and ally, the State of Israel and her people, suffering the effects of war, and for the American families and for the people in Israel who've suffered the loss of loved ones, or those who are unaccounted for or are hostages. May they find comfort and strength in Thee. We ask Thy blessing for our military members in the Middle East, some who have already endured attack. May they remain safe. We ask Thy blessing for the families of the 18 lost and 13 injured in the main mass shooting last week. May they find solace in Thee and feel the support and sympathy of the nation as they grieve and recover. We ask Thy blessing for our very own Shirla Snow. May she fully recover from her recent surgery. Lastly, Father, we ask Thy blessing for every veteran who proudly served our country and whose sacrifice we appreciate. And may we all see a strong and patriotic United States once again as one nation under Thee. Father, we humbly ask these blessings in the name of Thy beloved Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen.
I have a couple of stories, one relating to a military man during wartime, and then another story is kind of a personal experience. So first of all, in the winter of 1944 during World War II, Max St. John's was in France, a platoon sergeant in the Yankee division under General Patton. About mid-December, he received a letter from his mother back in the States. The letter said, in the letter she asked, "Can you remember where you were on Thanksgiving Day?" Startled by the question, he thought, could I remember? How could I forget the odd thing that happened that day? At dawn, Mac was sent to check out a crossroad where the enemy strongpoint was suspected. Normally, he would have had his men fan out so they could move to cover the trees. But not just before he started out that Thanksgiving morning, he stopped. He thought, I stood still, arguing with myself about what to do. Then going strictly against the book, Mac walked his men right down the middle of the road, exposed in a column. No one fired at them. There was no evidence of the enemy. They found the crossroads unoccupied and turned to walk back. There on the backside of the trees where only the German soldiers would have seen, there were signs cautioning Minen. The woods were mined. They all could have been blown to bits. His mother's letter continued. She told him how she was awakened after midnight on Thanksgiving Eve when it would have been daylight in France. I had a strong feeling that you were in great danger, she wrote. When I opened my Bible, a phrase in 2 Chronicles 20:17 gleamed on the page. Stand ye still and see the salvation of the Lord with you. Clearly, St. John's mother had a premonition of potential danger to her son, and God messaged him to stand stark still and rethink his next move. It saved him and his men so they may celebrate Thanksgiving days in the future. Now, the second story is, as I said, was a personal experience. And it happened when my husband, Joe, was assigned to an aircraft squadron at North Island Naval Air Station in Coronado, California, 1973 through 1976. So it was a year or two ago. An Australian Navy pilot was transferred to his squadron as an exchange pilot. His wife and one child accompanied them, and they lived in a nice house in Coronado. Brian and Julie were a fun couple and determined to get as much from their experience in America as possible. When November rolled around, Julie decided to research this American holiday called Thanksgiving, not something that is celebrated in Australia. She read about the history of the holiday and saw pictures of families gathered around tables for Thanksgiving dinner. And this inspired her to give a try and invite some of Brian's squadron mates and their wives to celebrate the holiday with them. Joe and I were fortunate to be on the invite list for this special occasion. When we arrived, we were impressed at the detail with which she decorated the living room and dining room with fall colors and floral arrangements. The dining room table was set with her fine china, crystal stemware, and a beautiful centerpiece with candles. The highlight was when Julie and Brian brought out the roast turkey on a large platter, surrounded with fruit pieces and cranberries. Then came the Waldorf salad, the sweet potatoes, mashed potatoes, green beans, cranberry sauce, etc. The table looked like something out of a Norman Rockwell photo. All of the guests gave them a round of applause. After a very heartfelt blessing, we all enjoyed this wonderful experience and delicious food. Brian and Julie embraced our American culture and relayed to us the respect they had for this special holiday called Thanksgiving. Now, if you will all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I just want to give a really quick membership report because we want to get to the important guests that we have today. We are taking new memberships for 2024, and so far we have 12 that have joined, 3 associates and 9 members already. So thank you for renewing. We've got 2 new members. The McKeons joined last month, and we're ending 2023 with 106 members. 18 of those are associates, and we have 61 gems. Gems we love because that allows us to not have to fundraise. So if you want to join and pay a little extra, that gets to stay with our club. And we've got silver, gold, and diamond memberships. And we love our gems and sure appreciate all of you who join and come with us to just be patriotic Americans and be involved in our community. And we're so excited to have the Honor Flight as our charity for this year. We have 2 new silver members that I want to recognize this month. Carol Bracken. Carol and Kathy Hart, you here? Thank you. And 2 gold members, Dave and Judy Houston, renewed at gold. So thank you so much.
I'm here to present the nominating committee's nominees for our executive committee for the year 2024 and 2025. For president, when I call your name, please stand and remain standing till I've called everyone. For president, Haley Kaplan. For first vice president, Alexis Entz. Second vice president is Joanne Brinton. Third vice president is Jennifer Nelson. Secretary, Janine Burton. She's here. Sandy Aiken for treasurer. And I'm not sure, Debbie Allred for member at large. Is Debbie here? Okay, we're missing Debbie, I guess. Okay, that's our committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sharon, for presenting that. We do need to, it's a vote of acclamation since there wasn't any opposition. So all those in favor of the new executive board, please say aye. Aye. And any opposed? Thank you. I don't know if we have to do that, but we'll do it. Okay. Gil, I know you had something I want to get with you. Yeah, Gil has something to present, and then we will turn the time over to Marion's going to introduce. So if you're new to us, we do Caring for America charity for the following year. It'll be for 2024. So Marion's going to introduce our speakers for Honor Flight, and then we'll turn the time over to Dave Houston, who's going to introduce after they're finished for our additional veteran speakers today. So, Gil.
Thank you for this 1 minute. You have a full schedule. I wanted you to know that the commissioners all met yesterday together with the sheriff, Nicole, our county administrator, and others with the Jewish community, and assured them of our pledge to grant them as much security as possible, and of course to stand with them in what seems to be a rise again of anti-Semitism, even somewhat locally, although I hope we haven't had any big outbreaks, but we want you to know we did that and gave them some comfort. They have to go to their meetings and lock the doors and don't let anybody in that they don't know. So that's an awkward thing to think you're an American having to deal with that. By a show of hands, how many of you have been to Williamsburg? So a lot of you know they have people that speak in character. And as much as you try to get them out of 1776 or 1820 or whatever, they just don't do it, right? Although I listened to Lafayette and Thomas Jefferson about a week ago. Jefferson said, "And what state are you from?" And I said, "The not yet created state of Utah." You know, he was like an awkward moment for both of us because he's trying to stay in character. But raised an eyebrow like, where? But the thing that was interesting is we asked him a couple of questions. I asked him specifically, what caused him to have to take the language out of the original Declaration of Independence where slavery would be abolished? And he explained Rutledge and Georgia and all of these different states and their representatives there saying, if you want to have a successful convention and be unanimous, we're going to have to take that language about slavery out. And Jefferson did cross through it. And he, in character, he said to all of us, wouldn't it have been great to have solved that problem here and now at that moment, 1776? And it was an excellent moment. And then he broke with character only so slightly when he said, the self-interest of those individuals in my day, I wonder if self-interest will be the undoing of our country in the future. And you can see just this undertone of him saying, be careful in Congress, in boards, in bureaucracy. Is self-interest going to rule the day, or is America going to stand behind the principles in the Constitution, which hadn't been written yet? He said Declaration of Independence. So I thought it was excellent. Thank you for my time.
Can anybody hear me with this? Thank you. Hello, everybody. This year, yeah, I'm not climbing on the steps to it, so we'll do it this way. This year, we've chosen Honor Flights as our charity. And today, we are honored to have as our guests two veterans who have taken honor flights. Both of them have taken honor flights, Carol and Donald Riddle. They will say a few words about honor flights and perhaps answer some questions afterwards if anybody has any questions. So please come on up, Carol and Donald.
We didn't know this is what we were getting into. The people from Utah Honor Flight put out a call to anyone who was down in this area would come and speak to your group. And no one jumped up and put it on the on Instagram. And so I wrote and said, well, we're in the area. We could go speak or do whatever you want us to do. We went on our honor flight just a month ago on the 10th and 11th of October. Don and I are both Vietnam era veterans. We served in the United States Air Force. I was a flying medic with a helicopter unit out of Mountain Home Air Force Base. Don worked in civil engineering. We met over 52 years ago. We've been married 50 years. I'm originally from Utah, and he is from Decatur, Illinois. I hail from Vernal. We have two daughters, two grandkids, and we both ride Harleys. And we're still throwing our leg over those babies. The honor flight was, we had been on the list for 3 years. What they do is they pick the ones from World War I, which they're done, World War II, Korea, and then any terminal patient, veterans that have terminal issues. And then they went to Vietnam. So they called us about 3 months ago and asked us if we would like to attend. We said yes. Nate Wade Subaru was the sponsor of our flight, and they paid for the veterans to go. There was 69 of us. And then we took both of our daughters as our guardians. The oldest daughter went with Dawn, and our second daughter went with me. So it was all 4 of us there. It was kind of fun. Neither one of them had been to Washington, D.C. before. Dawn and I had. Lots of new memorials, lots of fun. And if you haven't gone and you're eligible to go, you can get online at Utah Honor Flight, and they'll walk you through it, and you can get set up. They'll be doing their last flight this year, next week. They leave on Tuesday, and they'll come back on Wednesday night. And I'll let Don tell you about his, but it was fun. There were 69 veterans, 69 guardians, 3 buses. All the buses had medical people on them, and the gentleman we had was just gotten out of the National Guard as a medic, and his 2 rules were, you don't fall and you don't die.
I'm not too accustomed to speaking in front of crowds. After 30 years in law enforcement, it's still kind of impressive. But I would like to stress one important factor, and that's the veterans. If you haven't signed up for this, please do. I lost a friend, a military friend last Saturday. He didn't get to go. And it's an honor to go to this. It is when the American public and America kind of looks back on you. It gives something in return. Daryl didn't get to go. He deserved to go. And it's just, if you've got that opportunity and you haven't done it, if you can't do it, have one of your loved ones do it for you. It is an honor to go back there and have that bestowed upon you. You can go to just Utah Honor Flight, and they'll, like Carol said, they'll walk you through it. And hopefully you can get on the next flight a little sooner than 3 years. But it's well worth the time. And for your guardian that goes with you, it brings your family, if that's what you've got as a family member to be your guardian, it brings you a lot closer to your family. So I'd like to thank you.
Do you know how much it costs for one person?
They pay for the veteran,
I
that
know,
Nate Wade, but it costs us $1,050 for each of the girls to go. And I was going to say, I don't know how you guys' donations and everything go, but if you have someone that is unable to pay for their guardian to go with them, it might be worth a little fundraiser for you to help some of the veterans that I think don't sign up because they know they don't have the money, or their guardian, a child, doesn't have the money to go with. They don't allow a wife or a spouse to go with because they've had issues. So it has to be a child or a grandchild or a friend or a brother or sister or someone who's healthy enough that they get, because if you are in a wheelchair or you need a wheelchair, they will need to be able to push you. And so, yeah, it was $1,050 for each of the girls.
How many honor flights do they have a year?
I think they had 6 this year. They're sponsored.
Do they leave out at Salt Lake or Las Vegas?
We flew out of Provo on a charter flight. And they used to have a group down here that the southern part of the state flew out of Vegas, but that has no one supporting it anymore. So the only ones they have are the northern end honor flight. They are trying to work to get a group down here again so they can fly them out of Vegas as opposed to have to drive to Provo or Salt Lake. But this year, everything's went out of Provo.
How long is is it a tour of the memorial? Or?
Yeah, we left on Tuesday morning at 6 o'clock in the morning. And that day on our thing was, we got there to Baltimore, and then they put us on our 3 buses. You're assigned to your bus, red, white, or blue. We were the special bus, we were blue. My kids referred to it as the short bus. Anyway, it was a good bus. You know, we had wheelchairs and whatnot on ours. And it takes longer to unload and everything when you have the ones that have to have more help. But everybody supported everybody. But then we toured that day, and then that night we went back to the DoubleTree, the big convention center there in Baltimore, and they had a huge honor banquet and everything, gave out some awards and, thanked people and all that kind of stuff. You got to meet a lot of the people that weren't on your bus, that night and everything. Next morning we got up, had breakfast, and right there at the same place again at the DoubleTree. And then we spent the whole day touring all of the memorials, the Vietnam, Korea, everyone. We knew I had not been to the World War II, and we were at that one. And all those that we had like 4 hours. We went to the Navy one too, which we had quite a few Navy on our
Navy Museum.
Navy Museum. That's kind of cool. If you have, most of you probably maybe been to Washington DC, but if you get to go to the Korea one, it is really a cool one. I'm Vietnam and it's cool too, but the Korean one is really something. And they added to it since Don and I had been there, so that was kind of fun, the infinity pool and all that kind of stuff. So, and then we got to the airport and they had bomb threat. There were helicopters all over and people all over. Our flight was held up. We were 4 hours late getting to Provo because we couldn't leave Baltimore. So we should have gotten back at 8:30. We didn't get back until like 1 o'clock in the morning, 1:30. But there was still probably 250 people there to welcome us home. At 1:30 in the morning, they were more bright-eyed than we were. Anyway, but if you know someone, and like I said, as your group here, if you're able to help someone pay for their guardian to go, that would be, because I'm absolutely positive there's a lot of people out there, we're all on fixed incomes and whatnot at our age, a lot of them who'd like to go, but know that they don't have someone who can pay for it. That keeps them from signing up. So, anything else? Thank you for letting us, oh, sorry, yes?
I have 2 questions. Do you know if Utah has any World War II vets left to go or can go?
They don't have anybody signed up right now, but I also think that there's an issue with the fact that probably if they're in a wheelchair, or family can't take them or they can't afford to go or whatnot, you can contact Stephanie with the Utah Honor Flight and she probably will give you more information about if they have anybody signed up or somebody waiting until they can afford to go.
And second question, did you see the Women's Memorial?
It wasn't on the list, but our bus driver, the lady over our bus stopped and I do have a picture of me and my 2 girls in front of the Women's Memorial.
So part of the added expense from Vegas to Salt Lake is, would it be desirable for the guardian and the veteran to not drive, but rather just get picked up here or take?
Well, for us, we drove. We left.
But some, you think it would be a benefit?
Oh, I think that if they had a southern thing down here, you'd have a lot more go. I think probably some don't go because they can't get to Provo or they don't want to make that drive.
Well, I'll pay for anybody who wants to take a shuttle up there.
Okay.
And their guardian.
Okay, I'll let Stephanie know.
Please do.
Okay, if you want to give me a card or something that I can,
I will.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's the biggest issue right now they're struggling with is the expense. When we first signed up 3 years ago, it would have cost us $497 per guardian. Now it's $1,050.
Wow.
That's a huge thing. We were fortunate, our daughters went with us. They had not been to Washington, so it's kind of fun for them to go see it and everything, but it's a whirlwind trip for 2 days, let me tell you. We're up at 5 o'clock in the morning going until 10:30, 11 at night, both days. And then that extra little thing with the mom thread. That's here. So anyway, and the food, some of the meals were a little questionable because I don't know how many box lunches you guys have had in your life. But the breakfast and the banquet and all that, good food. They treated us well. And that was the other thing that she asked what you guys could help with besides wet wipes in December to kind of help out. Snacks. They gave us every time we stopped, they gave us a bag with little snacks in it. You don't pay for anything. The veteran is not allowed to pay for anything except for if you buy a souvenir. And if you do buy something, you give them the receipt and they give it back. But, those little treat things would have like, granola bars and things like that in it. So that might be something else you might want to consider. Your December thing is donating some of that kind of stuff to put in the treat bags. So they'll get ready for next year. Their first flight, I think, is in February.
The one thing on the lunches, some of the K rations would have been better, or MREs would have been better. So if you could put an MRE in your suitcase or your duty bag that you carry during the day, you'll survive it.
Their biggest problem that night we got stuck in the airport is they held all of our meals until we got on the plane. Well, they were from Arby's and they would have been really nice sandwiches if they'd given them to us while we were in the airport. But they sat for 4 hours before we got on. That was kind of the catch on that. Shouldn't have been my phone with the MREs. Anyway, any more questions? I want to thank you for letting us come and speak to you today and the Honor Flight people. They do so much work and they do all of this volunteer. They do not get paid for it. Their trip is paid for, yes, but they don't get paid. They take time off from their work, their families and everything to go do this with the veterans.
Thank you so much, you guys, for coming and speaking, even though you may not wanted to speak, so we appreciate it. So again, as she mentioned, next month, we always bring, for our December meeting, so if you want to bring the sanitizing wipes, snacks, like granola bars, things like that, or monetary donations as well, we'll continue to support them all of next year. So we'd love to have your support that way and honor our veterans. Now I'm going to turn the time over to Dave. He's not going to brag about himself, but if you don't know, Dave is a 30-year veteran of the Marines, and we really appreciate his service, and he's brought some fellow veterans he's going to introduce. So, Dave?
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am grateful for this opportunity to speak to you and introduce some really hardcore Marines. Thank you, Haley, and Washington County Republican Women for having us and recognizing the service that has been provided. Thank you too for allowing these fellow service members to go back to Washington, D.C. Appreciate that very much. Most of you probably don't know it, but the lowest organization in the Marine Corps is called a fire team. And we are one short of a complete fire team today. Are there any Marines out there that haven't identified themselves ever served? Darn it. With a fire team, I was told we could take anything. So besides Pat, who will be introduced later, and Kenneth, who will be our next speaker, and myself, that makes 3 Marines out of that 4 in the fire team.
We could do it, Rick.
We could. I'll put Kenneth, since he's the oldest, he'll be the fire team leader. Let me introduce our next speaker. His name is Marine Corporal Kenneth Brown. He's one of the few surviving Marines of World War II. A member of the 5th Marine Division who landed on the beaches of Iwo Jima on February 19th, 1945. During that assault, 6,140 Marines died. Another 24,053 were wounded. By far, that was the largest single action loss in the Marine Corps history. After the war, he survived, he served, he didn't survive, he did survive, but then he went on to serve an LDS mission. He returned home and married his beautiful wife, Jean, who is here with us today, and their son, David, and his son are here with us as well. He earned a doctorate and became a teacher. In his free time, he and Jean had 7 children. His hobbies included fishing, skiing, hiking, and camping with his family. I'm proud to introduce Dr. Ken Brown.
Okay. Ryan there.
He was pretty good for 100 years old, doesn't he? Oh, sit behind you? Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Improvise, adopt, overcome. Okay. I guess so.
You comfortable?
Yeah, you bet.
Okay.
You live long enough, you get to do all kinds of things, you know. Speak to groups like this. I've always been proud to have been a Marine. We know what goes on in boot camp. What happened to me in boot camp actually saved my life.
The girlfriend I left at home promised to wait for me. And she did for a couple of weeks. And then I received what was called a Dear John letter, letting me know that she had found a new boyfriend. It upset me so I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, nor attend properly to my duties. I was just a dumb kid. I was just upset. So I was told to go see the chaplain, and he would be understanding and make everything right. A jeep took me to the regimental chaplain, who was not in his office. I said to the driver, okay, forget it, take me back. But he said, no way. If you wanted to see a blankety blank chaplain, you're going to see one. Well, I was just a dumb kid. I did not want to see any high-ranking officer. But he drove me to the division chaplain's office and pushed me in the door. And there I saw an impressive, big man, a full colonel on the general staff, sitting at a desk, smoking a big cigar. His name was Warren F. Cuthrill. As I approached, he asked, what can I do for you? I told him about the letter I got and that I had lost my girlfriend. She had found somebody else. I was upset and I couldn't sleep and eat and I didn't know what to do. He looked at that and said to me, Private Brown, that's the saddest story I've ever heard. Then he said, how much money do you have? $28.28. Oh, that's not enough. He took from his own pocket a couple of bills, big bills, and said, now you go out and go on a 3-day drunk. The guys here say that when you're in such a situation, that alcohol is the answer and you'll feel better. So when I said, oh no, I can't do that. I can't leave camp. He said, oh yes, you can. You just go AWOL. And when the M2s pick you up in a few days and put you in the brig, you have them call me and I'll come and bail you out. At that moment, it didn't sound like such a bad idea. So I took the money and went out the door. Immediately I thought, I can't do this. So I turned around, went back in the door and put the money on the table and said, I'm sorry, sir, I can't do that. And he said, why not? And I said, well, sir, I don't drink. You don't drink? You're a Marine, aren't you? Yes, sir, but I don't drink. He said, why don't you drink? And I said, well, nothing other things is against my religion. What religion is that? Well, sir, I'm a Mormon. Well, what else don't you do? Well, I don't smoke. There he was, smoking a big cigar. He looked at me and said, do you chase after the girls? And I said, no, sir, I don't do that. That's against my religion, too. Then he gave me a rather intensive interview. He asked me all kinds of questions. I was wondering why. Afterwards, he said, do you swear and blaspheme? I said, no, sir, I don't. And then he said, by the way, can you lead the singing? I said, yes, I'd learned how to do that in seminary. How about the piano? Can you play? Oh, I can play music a little. Yeah, what about typewrite? Can you typewrite? Yes, I can do 30 words a minute. He said, that settles it. If there's one man like this in my outfit, I want him in my office with me when we go into battle. I would like you to be my assistant. How about it, son? So I became the assistant to the division chaplain, Warren F. Cuthrill, one of the finest Christian gentlemen that I'll ever know. We were often behind the lines, which no doubt saved my life. After boot camp, we found ourselves on a ship headed for a little speck of land in the middle of the ocean called Iwo Jima. Feelings varied and tensions very high on the ship. As we became closer, we anchored offshore. First night and watched the rockets and heard the loud blasts of bombings, knowing that the little islanders were being bombed. Next morning, we were going to go ashore. Well, the time came. I was in the middle of the landing craft, close to Captain Cuthrill, and he, in fact, was ordered to keep an eye on him. I became his constant companion and his bodyguard when we were out of the office. The landing craft was not able to get very close to the shore, and the ocean was pretty rough, so it was a real challenge to get safely ashore. It was really scary. As we were struggling to get to land, we were being fired upon and saw some of our comrades fall. Some of the men were killed immediately as they left the landing craft. Finally, we made it to shore, which was covered with fallen Marines. It was a horrifying sight. I then, with my rifle company, and stayed with them several days until an area was secured to take care of the dead. Then I was called off the line to build the cemetery. Then I was going to say here, this was a time first meeting with Rabbi Gittleson. He was a kind Jewish chaplain who served everyone well and liked and respected. He seemed older to us because we were so young, but actually he was in his 30s. Rabbi Gittleson and Chaplain Cuthru and I shared an office, which was a tent, where we worked together in the process of taking care of the dead. During this time, I became well acquainted with Rabbi Gittleson, and we shared a warm friendship. I was kind of like the guy Radar in the MASH show. One day I was called out of the office to go up as a replacement in the rifle company because the Marines were going to secure a strategic hill. As we approached the hill waiting for a right time to go up, we all sat around writing letters home, saying that we were fine, everything was going well, but knowing that taking that hill would result in a lot of casualties. Just before we began our ascent on the hill, a runner came up from behind the lines and asked for Corporal Brown to return immediately to the cemetery. Again, my life was saved, as the whole rifle company was wiped out. One day, after Rabbi Gittleson came to me with some pencil writing on a piece of white paper and asked me to type it for him. I did so, not having any idea that it would someday become so revered and well known, especially throughout military circles. This little piece of paper became known as Rabbi Roland B. Gittleson's eulogy at Iwo Jima. I'd like to read part of this anyway. He wrote, this is perhaps the grimmest and surely the holiest task we have faced since D-Day. For us lie the bodies of comrades and friends, men with whom, only until yesterday or last week, laughed with us, and joked with us, and trained with us. Men who were on the same ships with us and went over the side with us as we prepared to hit the beaches of this island. Men who fought with us and feared with us. Somewhere in this plough ground there may lie the individual who could have discovered the cure for cancer. Under one of these Christian crosses, or beneath a Jewish Star of David, there may now rest an individual who is destined to be a great prophet, to find the way perhaps for all to live in plenty, with poverty and hardship for none. Now they all lie here silently, passed away in this sacred soil, and we gather to consecrate this earth in their memory. It's not easy to do so. Some of us have buried our closest friends here. We saw men killed before our very eyes. When anyone of us may have died in their places. Indeed, some of us are alive today and breathing at this very moment only because men who lie here beneath us had the courage and strength to give their lives for ours. To speak in memory of such men is not easy. Of them too, it can be said with utter truth, the world will little note nor long remember what we say here. It can never forget what they did here. So we dedicate ourselves to live together in peace, the way they fought and were buried in war. Here lie men who loved America, because centuries ago their forefathers helped in its founding. Here lie officers and privates, blacks and whites, rich and poor, together. Here are Protestants, Catholics, Jews, together. Here no man prefers another because of his faith, or despises him because of his color. Among these men there is no discrimination, no prejudice, no hatred. Theirs is the highest and purest democracy. This war has been fought by the common man. Its fruits of peace must be enjoyed by the common man. We promise by all that is sacred and holy that your sons and daughters, your mild miller, your workers will inherit from your death the right to a living that is decent and secure. To you who sleep here silently, we give our promise. We will not forget that some of you were burnt with the oil that came from American wells, that many of you were killed by shells fashioned from American steel. We promise that we shall remember how you looked when we placed you reverently, your bodies placed reverently and lovingly in the ground. Thus we do memorialize those who, having ceased living with us, now live within us. Thus we do consecrate ourselves, the living, to carry on the struggle that they began. Too much blood has gone into this soil here to let it lie barren. Too much pain and heartache have fertilized the earth on which we stand. We here solemnly swear that this shall not be in vain. Out of this and from the suffering and sorrow of those who mourn this will come, we promise, the birth of a new freedom for all humanity everywhere. And to this we say amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. It's truly an honor to be with you and have served in the Corps. If I work this out right, our next speaker will take all the time and I won't have to say a word. Maybe not. Pat Lacey, Sergeant Pat Lacey, I should say, was born and raised in Madison, Wisconsin. Attended the University of Wisconsin for 1 year, and for whatever reason, decided he wanted to be a Marine. He did so well at boot camp that they made him a Marine and shipped him off to Vietnam. On May 15th, 1969, he was wounded in action and sent to the hospital. But being the Marine he is, after his recovery, he immediately rejoined his unit until he returned home to the States. After Vietnam, he was a drill instructor at Marine Corps Recruit Depot in San Diego. And anybody that's gone through boot camp knows that's no easy task. After his service with the Corps, he became a game warden in Wisconsin until he retired in 2006, at which time he moved to St. George. He is married to Marjorie, and they have 2 boys and 3 grandchildren. Pat loves hiking, photography. He's also a charter member of the Marine Corps League here in St. George. I'm now proud to introduce Pat Lacey.
Well, after Ken's speech up here, I wish you a great afternoon. It was nice coming. Okay, how do you follow on the Iwo Jima bit? So I grew up in Madison, Wisconsin. The year is 1967, December, and I'm finishing up another semester at college. And the war in Vietnam is really raging, right? So I wasn't doing that well in college. I was a C student at best. And so myself and 3 or 4 of my buddies figured, well, let's go to the war. One of the reasons was because the class before us, 4 young men went to Vietnam, 3 of them came home in bags. another one came home seriously wounded. So of course, we're gonna go get ourselves some revenge. We got everything we asked for, and off to Vietnam. We all went to Vietnam. None of us were killed. All of us ended up with Purple Hearts. My particular unit was Echo Company, 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines. The 5th Marine Regiment has a motto that they picked up in Belleau Wood when the French told them, "Hey, you better get out of here. The Germans are really, they're surrounding you. It's gonna be awful." And the Marine captain stood up and said, "Retreat hell, we just got here." And that's the motto of the 5th Marines. So it was kind of the same up through history. Belleau Wood was World War I. But in Vietnam, we spent our time out in the bush. We were warriors in the bush. And along with my Purple Heart and a few other bits and pieces here, I'm probably most proud of my combat action ribbon because that kind of sets Marines in a different area, so to speak. In Vietnam, at any one time, about 15% of all warriors, of all military people in Vietnam, about 15% were in the field doing fighting. That means about 85% had other jobs, which doesn't make them bad people. You know, if it hadn't been for logistics and all of that, you know, I probably wouldn't be standing here today. Neither would Ken. So we had it was a long year. I got wounded in May of '69, and I was about halfway through my tour, and I was happy to be able to go back to the bush because a lot of people didn't get that opportunity. So we saw things in Vietnam that young people should never see or anybody. But another reason that we went to the Marines and we knew we were going to Vietnam is because we were patriots. And America called, and we gave up our school for a little while to go and do something that we thought was righteous. So a lot of times, first of all, you should hate war, right? I tell people, go ahead and hate the war, but don't hate the warrior, right? Because they have a purpose, they have a cause. They want to go help people. Why do you think somebody would go halfway around the world or the Iwo Jima in the Pacific Ocean to fight? I mean, it doesn't make sense unless you have that righteousness in your mind. You know it's the thing to do. What happened after the war and all that kind of stuff really doesn't matter. While those warriors are fighting, we need to support them, right? Okay. It's going to give you a little bit of a test. So I'm from Madison, Wisconsin, and 75 miles east of Madison is a little town called Ripon. Does anybody here know the significance of Ripon, Wisconsin? You shake your head, you can't answer. She already knows. No, you can tell us, Jeff.
No, I don't know. I just know the name.
Oh, the name? Okay.
I don't know why.
Well, they have a cookie factory called Ripon Good. That they are really good cookies, but that's not the Ripon. Mine is spelled a little different, R-I-P-O-N. 1854. Remember the Whig Party? They became the Republican Party, birthplace of the Republican Party. So the belt that I lived in Wisconsin was, let's just call it red. You know, there's red and blue. When it comes to, so I come from a long line of Republicans. And that's not the reason I went to Vietnam. Richard Nixon was a Republican, but that wasn't my cause. When it comes to military and Veterans Days and things like this, I'd like to really almost not get into the red and blue thing. So I'm not here today because the room is full of Republicans. I'm here because the room is full of patriots, and that's my shtick on that. When I got to Vietnam, you know, I was a wise guy kid, and I had my views of Republicans and Democrats and all that, and of course I was right. And but when I got to Vietnam and ended up in a line company, a rifle company that got into the field, I learned like really quick that stuff doesn't matter. And Ken touched on this. I mean, when you're out there, you've been through battle, you're whatever's going on out in the bush. We didn't sit around and talk about politics. Politics didn't matter. Religion didn't matter. Race, color, creed, none of that crap mattered because life in Vietnam for me was like this. You know, it was way down here. And I don't mean that we crawled around on the ground all the time, which we did plenty of. I mean, as humanity, you're at the sort of cusp of life. There's life, there's death, right? And that's where we lived mentally for 13 months. And so none of that other stuff mattered. What really mattered was hey, next to me in the foxhole, does your rifle work? Are you gonna shoot it if the enemy comes up the hill? Things like that, to use a grenade. So that's where you have an extra pair of dry socks. I mean, that's where life was for that year in combat. And I'm proud I went over. I may feel different if I was speaking to you without a pair of legs, which happened to lots of people. But for me, I think it was a good experience. And I can talk about it from an experience point of view. One of the things that sort of galled me when I got back to America, by the way, if you think politics in America is separated now, how many people here lived through the 60s? Forget about it. And so I get back and I did a lot of my fair share of hanging out in bars and stuff. I had some problems, but people would always, they know everything about the war. Well, you Vietnam veterans, the baby killing and all this. And everybody's got an opinion. And sooner or later, my temper would rise up a little bit, and I'd say, well, so when were you over in Vietnam? Well, I never went to Vietnam, man. I wouldn't do anything like that. And I tell them, then shut the hell up. Just shut the hell up. Because if you haven't been there, you can watch TV and the movie Platoon, which to me is about the most realistic one I've seen, by the way. Still about 50% Hollywood. But if you haven't, like Mr. Gillis, I mean, I don't know what your job is. I've never been a county commissioner, so I can't tell you what Gil's life is like on the commission, right? I can't tell anybody in here what they, because I haven't lived your thing. So you get the idea. If you don't know, have your opinion. That's great. It's America, but don't get so passionate about it that you start looking like a monkey, because somebody's going to say, well, were you there? And then you have to sort of eat a little crow. To close out, it was a year of awful and all this kind of stuff, but you know what? Sometimes things happen even in war that aren't so horrible. Actually a little humorous once in a while. Like the movie, the TV series MASH, most of the goofing around you see there is called gallows humor. It's so awful that you have to get into any type of humor. So this happened several times, but I'll tell you one quick story. So we're up in the jungles, and this is in January of '69, and I was a fire team leader, and there's 4 people on a fire team. So my squad leader said, "Hey, Lisa, take your fire team down. It's 5 o'clock in the morning, and we were to go down the hill about 500 meters and set up a little ambush for the day." So I get my guys down, and we go down the trail. And where we're set up is where 2 little streams come together to form one. So like the bifurcation of a stream. And we spread out in a little fan shape. We lay there all day long. It's raining and whatnot. And so about 5 in the afternoon, I'm getting my guys ready to head back up the hill. And then one of my guys notices some movement over here. He goes like that. And so we stayed in our position. And the people who appear, do you know the difference between VC and NVA? The NVA was the North Vietnamese Army. They wore uniforms. VC are the ones you see with black pajamas and the cone-shaped hat. And I can fix yours up, Jennifer. Straw hat. And so these were VC. There was 4 of them. Well, 3 of them were carrying a yoke, a stick across their shoulders with buckets on the ends. Clearly, they're coming down to the stream to collect water. The 4th guy on the line was carrying a bucket, and he had a AK-47 slung over his shoulder with the muzzle down. So they get to the stream, and my guys are like, I'm going, something doesn't feel right. I mean, at some point, folks, when does it become murder, and when is it like justifiable? I just wasn't feeling it. I felt like, I also felt like, what's the term? Discretion is a better part of valor. How do we know they don't have 250 buddies up the trail, right? So I told them, no, just wait up. Well, are y'all familiar with Three Stooges cartoons? Like all this. Well, these guys didn't yuck, but one guy's straw hat fell in the stream. And so he's down there, and then he slips on a rock, he falls in, and 2 other guys are down there. They're trying to get the hat, and the guy with the AK-47, by the way, he's getting kind of nervous. He's looking all around. We are as close as that partition right there, all 4 of us. 4 against 4. And so they're getting really nervous. They're falling in the water. And my guys are kind of laughing. If it hadn't been for the fact that it was a stream making noise, because we were going You're just like trying to bury your face in the mud, so they don't figure out that you're being watched. And finally, they really got spooked. They headed back up the trail. So I got my guys up, went back up to the top, and I told my squad leader this, and stood there was no way we were going to open up on these guys. It was just, would have been a slaughter. And the next day, of course, he passed it on to the platoon commander and all that. So the next day, we did go out looking for this little troop, but we never found them. We found a base camp that they were working out of. It wasn't that far away. But here's how I'm going to end this story. To this day, to be honest with you, I am glad that those 4 guys made it, because there's just been too much killing. And at some point, you just got to relax and let somebody else live through the war. So I hope those guys made it. And I'm very glad to be here, and thanks for having me.
Well, again, thank you, Pat. Sergeant Pat Lacey, I should say. It's been an honor to be with both of you, and I'm certainly happy to be here. Obviously, I didn't work out the timing very well, so now you get to listen to me for a few minutes. Judy and I served our country in the military for 32 years. I spent 4 years enlisted in the 19th Special Forces Group, Army, and 28 years in the United States Marine Corps. We moved 23 times during that period and lived in Quantico, Virginia, Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, Marine Corps Recruit Depot, San Diego, Camp Pendleton, California, Okinawa, Japan, and Headquarters European Command, Stuttgart, Germany. Additionally, I was deployed to Bosnia, Lebanon, Iraq, Rwanda, and Somalia. Judy's service during that time included maintaining our home, taking care of our 5 children, and handling all the day-to-day responsibilities. So if you ask me who the hero is, it's Judy and all the other spouses who kept everything together while the Marines were deployed. One thing about the military that many people don't know is the amount of humanitarian missions that we perform. You heard today of 2 very valiant Marines who served their country in Iwo Jima and Vietnam. That was a different era and certainly a different mission. I served on several different missions, but I want to bring to you today one in particular that I think has some meaning as we look at what's going on today in the world. One thing about the military that, like I mentioned before, that many people don't know is that we donated millions of dollars in equipment, supplies, and food. We built hospitals, schools, and generally improved the lives of those that in the third world condition, lived in third world conditions. In one case that is particularly application today, we built 2 hospitals in the West Bank, one in Jenin and one in Ramallah. Working with the Israeli Defense Force, or IDF as they're known by, and the Palestinian authorities, those hospitals were built to help meet the medical needs of the Palestinians. Several years after Judy and I left that area, we found out that after Hamas took control of the West Bank, both of those hospitals were destroyed. Fortunately, that's an isolated incident in most cases. The infrastructure, school, medical supplies continue to benefit, provide a benefit to those that received it. President Ronald Reagan once said that the Marine Corps was the 911 force for America. And I believe that to be true today as well as it was then. I'd like to say I'm honored and privileged to have served our country and to be here to share with you both the stories of Dr. Brown and Sergeant Lacey. So thank you very much for having us. If there are any questions of either myself, Pat, or Ken, be happy to entertain any questions. Well, that's great. Judy did tell me to make sure I got out in time.
You did great, thank you. Thank you so much, Dawn, Carol, and Pat, and Ken, sorry, looking in the right place, and Dave, thank you so much. I'm proud to be an American because of great people like you serving our country, and we will not forget your service. So thank you as we turn our hearts this upcoming Veterans Day. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this great community. We will look forward to our next luncheon, December 7th, and hope that you'll all join us and bring your honor flight donation to.
I just, United We Pledge is hanging their huge flag in Snow Canyon. Is it this next week? Like, who
Yes,
has
I think
to
it's
get
Veterans Day.
on Veterans Day? But I think it will be there for a week.
It will be there for a week, yes.
So
We
make
heard
sure
we
and
heard the people
go
from
to
Honor
Snow
Flight
Canyon and see that amazing flag.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up in Snow Canyon State Park if you didn't catch that. So thank you so much. Yes, again, feel free if you want to visit with them after. I'll take a motion to adjourn and let you get on your way.
Motion.
Okay, thanks, Jennifer. All right, have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.